And action, 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 action. And action, 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 action. Okay, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And it is evening here. I don't know whether you can see, but the light's fading outside our studio, and we've got some artificial light. We haven't got the camera lights set up. We do have camera lights, but we haven't got them set up at the moment. We've been having a conversation, and we wanted to catalogue our conversation.
It's a good word.
Is it the right one? Chronicle.
Chronicle's good. I like catalogue.
Chronicle or catalogue our conversation under the broad heading of Graham's Gripes, because I think it feels like this is the material, the fundamentals of a really good Graham's Gripe, and it concerns Melvyn's recent business trip.
It could be Graham's Gripes and Melvyn's Moans.
That's a pretty good idea. Graham's Gripe and Melvyn's Moans. Does that make an acronym? Good. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
We could work on it. Sometimes with an acronym, you don't just use the first letter. You make a word out of the first letter and some other letters that are within the word. So it could be Gragrimom.
I think it's probably better we do this with pen and paper at a later date and come back with some ideas.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. We'll do it later. So, Melvyn wants to chronicle his recent business trip to Blackpool. For those of you who are watching on the World Wide Web in other countries, where's Blackpool, Melvyn?
Oh, Blackpool's in the north-west of England, and I was starting out from pretty much the south-east, so I needed to get to Blackpool. There are two ways of doing it.
Hang on. Just a minute, we're rushing ahead of ourselves here.
Sorry.
Well, if we're doing this for folk in other countries who maybe never ever been to Britain, don't you think a little bit of background about Blackpool would be? Yes, Blackpool's a famous place.
Yes.
You're going to do it?
I don't know much about Blackpool. I only went there for a meeting.
It's a seaside resort, stuff like that.
Blackpool is a seaside resort with a pleasure beach and amusement arcades.
8 miles of sand.
8 miles of sand, apparently.
8 miles of sandy beach.
8 miles of sandy beach.
Very famous.
Very famous. And there's a big tower there,
Big tower.
very similar to the Eiffel Tower.
Not as high. It's not as high as
It's not as high.
nowhere
as
near, in fact.
Nowhere near, but
it looks a little bit like
yeah.
that. When was that built?
The Eiffel Tower, I think, was probably built in Victorian times.
No, not the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, the Blackpool Tower. I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought we were talking about the trains, but yeah, now that you brought it up, I think you probably have to
I'll look it up another time. I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into that one again.
I had to travel from Oxford to Blackpool, north. There are two ways to do it, apparently. I found out at the station whilst attempting to purchase my ticket. The first way is to go across country, as they call it, which means going via Birmingham, which is in the centre of the country, and on from there. The cost for doing that was £245, and I didn't want to go that route because the trains are not very pleasant, they're not very large, they're quite uncomfortable. So I decided to go to London Paddington, to get a taxi across to London Euston Station, and from there to travel up to Preston and onwards to Blackpool. Unfortunately, in this country you can't do that. Well, you can do it, but you can't buy a ticket for it. I had to buy a separate ticket to London Paddington at a cost of £47.
I think it's worth mentioning what the guy at the ticket office said, isn't it? Like, you said to him, why can't I do that? Why can't I buy a ticket from here to London and then to Blackpool via London?
But you can't.
No, but I know that. But you said to him, why can't I?
He said you can't because...
But he didn't know why you couldn't.
No.
I mean, I think that's an interesting feature of the story.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah,
because he's the ticket officer.
Yeah, but he didn't know why.
No, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's such a normal, logical thing to want to do, yet you couldn't do it.
No.
And he didn't know why. And he's a ticket man. He too observed that it would be a logical, reasonable thing to do. Sorry.
So I had to buy a ticket to London Paddington at a cost of £47, then get a taxi across to London Euston, and from London Euston I then had to purchase another ticket to go to Blackpool. I was told the cost of the ticket to Blackpool was £415 from London. Quite a big increase in price, but I paid it nonetheless. Even though when you get to Preston, the train that you get on at Preston to go to Blackpool North has not got first class, which is what I wanted. And when I came back, I had to purchase another ticket from London Paddington to Didcot Parkway. But I couldn't do that because somebody had either jumped or fallen under a train at Swindon, so there were no trains leaving Paddington. So I had to then go get a ticket to Oxford and then come back from Oxford to Didcot Parkway. It's not very easy travelling by train in England.
And the ticket to do that cost a lot more.
It was £59 because I had to go to Oxford and come back to Didcot Parkway.
You had to pay extra for the leg back.
Yes.
And you had an argument with them because you said you didn't think you should... Why am I prompting you into this story? It's your story. Please come out with all the details.
I had an argument with them because I felt I shouldn't have to pay the extra. But there's no way around that, unfortunately. No matter what the circumstances. They have not got the ability to do that.
That thing.
The train stopped at Didcot Parkway anyway.
And they didn't tell you that it was going to?
Not till we got to Didcot Parkway, no.
And if you'd known it was going to stop, I'm prompting you again.
I would have got on it and paid just to Didcot Parkway, and I'm sure a lot of people were stuck at Paddington. Many thousands of people were stuck at Paddington may well have done the same.
Thank you, Melvyn.
It's a lot to do with communication, really.
And other things. Anyway, the gist, or we might say the grist, of this episode's gripe, like the alliteration,
It's very good.
is something like this. Well, let's illustrate it in this way. I have friends come visit from abroad frequently, and particularly my German friends, I say, why? Oh, no.
I think you should do the German accent.
Yeah.
Just say what they say.
Why is the ticketing so complicated for your trains? Why is it so bafflingly complicated and labyrinthine? We cannot understand how the system works at all, and sometimes when you talk to the man at the ticket slipping into it.
You keep slipping into the German accent. Why do you do that?
I can't help it.
Huh?
I can't help it. I try not to. When you talk to the man at the ticket office, he doesn't understand the system either. Here's our gripe. Yeah, why is our ticketing system like this? In which nightmare fantasy did we end up with the system that we now have that is so incredibly complicated even the people operating it don't understand how it works? How'd that sound?
That's just exactly what happened to me.
No. How did the delivery sound?
Oh, very good. Yeah, I think it was delivered with a passion.
I mean, what sort of strange, weird country are we living in that comes up with a system like this for our railways? Our railways in Britain are one of our most precious resources. Historically, we were the first. That's probably the problem, isn't it?
We did invent the railways.
We invented the railways and were the first people to have had railways, and therefore everybody's learnt from our bugger ups, I suppose. Mind you, we only did this ticketing system about 20 years ago. We managed to bugger ourselves up again then. We were discussing earlier, we were trying to come up with thoughts like, how did we end up with this system? And of course it was, we think, to do with the privatisation of the railways 20 years ago. And how it all got chopped up and different companies had to own different bits. And like, okay, so we've got these operators, we've got those operators, that's go, oh, hang on a minute, who owns the stations? Let's have another company owning the stations. Oh, that's all right, we can do that. Hang on. Who owns the lines that the trains are running on? Is that the same company that the trains are running on? But it can't be, because on the same line, we have several different companies all running trains on the same line. Therefore, the train lines the tracks, they can't belong to any one company. Oh, we have to have another company to own the tracks.
Separate company.
Separate company for the tracks and the stations. And it probably started even operating this, and then they thought, oh, hang on. Who does the ticketing? Which company does the ticketing? Because we need a company to deal with all the different companies that run trains, and they have to liaise with all the other different companies that run the trains in order to make tickets. And if you want to go on a long distance journey, you may be using several different companies, and the ticketing got very, very complicated.
That was what I said about my anecdotal story.
Yeah, but I was just generalising. I was just making the general gripe observations, arising from the example of your story. Is it finished now?
The story's finished, yes. I think that's.
Have we finished the gripe? Have I griped enough?
I think you've got the message across.
I don't feel completely let out.
I think anybody watching this will now know what to expect if they try and travel on trains in this country.
Anyway, if you would like to add to Graham's gripe about the railway ticketing system, please do contribute to our blog. Thank you very much. It's goodbye from me.
And me. It should be called Graham and Melvyn's.
I beg your
I
pardon.
think it's Graham's gripe and Melvyn's moan. Just.
Graham's gripes and Melvyn gripe or gripes.
Well, there's going to be more than one of them.
Graham's gripes and start again. Thank you, and it's goodbye from Graham's gripes
And Melvyn's moans.
a nice rhythm there.
Didn't get that bit right.
Which bit?
That last bit, I think the last bit was right.
The rhythm was good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I like that.
I liked it. Yeah, I've got to try and remember to do it.